was a sunny day when the policeman spoke to me. Come with me to Barcelona, Spain, to be exact, 20 miles in the north of Barcelona, countryside, mountainous side, a mountain village. It looks a little bit like a small version of Montana. And there I am on the 15th of March, 2020. I'm going for a run. I leave the house, I run down the mile into the village, downhill, and then there's a roundabout, and at the roundabout, there's a policeman. The policeman is stopping cars, and I'm like, what's the policeman doing there? He sees me, he looks at me and says, ¿Dónde vas tú? Where are you going? Oh, estoy corriendo aquí. I'm running here. No, tú vas a casa. And you know, my friend, some Spanish needs no translation. I followed the kind policeman's advice and went back home. On the 15th of March, 2020, my 11 years build-up life as a professional speaker and communication coach died requiescat in pace. COVID, lockdown, complete lockdown. And it didn't help that for 10 years I would preach, online sucks. Pardon my French, but that's what I said. You can never get the energy across. You can never connect with the people as much as in a room, on stage. It's impossible. Online, no. I had zero credibility, zero ethos. But in disruption, there's always opportunity. I had to move. I had to move fast. I had to get fit fast online. So what did I do? I thought, what can I do? I thought, YouTube live sessions, Q&A on public speaking. That will be fun. Yeah, that was fun. 25 sessions in March, April 2020. The first one was so horrible, I deleted it. The other 24, they're still in my YouTube channel. And I'm getting better and better. You see that. And after 25 days, I felt okay-ish online. In May, the first client, Home Shopping Europe in Oktoberfest town, Munich. Home shopping, COVID, they were not so bad. Alex, tall guy, marathon style. He says, Florian, we want to not postpone. Can we do it online, 2-day full training? And I'm like, okay, but have you done it, Flo? No, but it will be good. That's what I said, not what I felt. Today, at the time of this recording, I have had 76 full training days, online trainings on public speaking, rhetoric, charisma. And today, with full force, with my entire heart, from the bottom of my heart, I can say online rocks. Welcome to boosting your online charisma, how to set their screens on fire. In this session, I will share with you my 3 big lessons learned. And today in this session, I'm not talking at all about king content. No content. It's all about the queen. It's all about delivery. My 3 big lessons learned. And I put them in 3 blocks. And here you see it in that formula. It's not Orange County, it's online charisma. Online charisma for me is your P plus I plus V. And then I will share with you a secret extra tip. Let's start. First block, the P, presence. Now I want you to imagine your speech that you give in Toastmasters or at work, in life. Imagine you deliver your speech to your audience like a retailer. A retailer delivers a product, your speech, to the audience, the clients. And the product needs packaging. And that packaging of your product, the speech, that is your presence for me. And in all those sessions, also in Toastmasters, and I've been to many clubs. Have you been to all the clubs now? Zoom is amazing. You can join clubs everywhere. I've been doing that. And I've seen too many times. People, if the presence would be packaging, this is their packaging. You see, it's horrible. I mean, there's holes in there, and look at the Scott tape, it's shady. And do you want to have this? Do you want to receive a product at home with this packaging? Are you an owner of an Apple product? Do you know people who own Apple products? Do you know what's the best thing about an Apple product? The packaging. Oh, look at the packaging of an Apple product. Whoa, OMG. This is so perfect. This is the pursuit of perfection. Thank you, Steve. This is a packaging for your speech. And I want you to start thinking about your presence online like an Apple product. Package it as if it were an Apple product. And here I have 4 tips for you. 4 tips to package your speech like an Apple product. The first one is light. Now, you can cheat in life, even if it's not good, but you can cheat in life, but you cannot cheat light. It's physical, it's physics. You cannot cheat light. How many times have I seen people with light behind them? Then you're dark. You're dark. It's physics. You cannot cheat light. Light always from the front. And it seems so banal, but I've seen it too many times. And they tell me, yeah, but I cannot in my home. It's impossible. Well, then you see it in the outline that, by the way, you can download down here, press the pause button now, download here. I have one infographic with the visual outline of this session that helps you. It guides you through the session. And here you have it. What I use are box slides. These are the huge box slides. They look like in a photo shooting. They're standing right here to give me great lighting. Yeah, but Flo, I cannot put them in my living room. What will my partner say? My husband, my wife, my children. If you cannot do it, don't do it. But you can build them up and put them when it's an important presentation. And if you have a studio in a basement, get cool lights. They're like $49 online. Get cool lighting. When you have daylight, I'm sitting with daylight. I close the blinds now to have consistent lighting. But if you have daylight, always good, more natural. But be aware it must come from behind the camera. If it's here, you're dark. And it's not an Apple product. The second tip, you see in that infographic, in the outline, is the camera. Now, the camera, there are 2 things. Do you use the camera on your computer, or do you have an external webcam? Get yourself an external camera. Now, I'm a super fan, and this is not product placement. This is not product placement. I'm not getting commission. I'm a great fan of the Logitech C930E. The Logitech C930E made my day when I received it. But whatever product you have right here, it must have two features. First, HD, high definition. It must say 1080 pixel, 1080p, like the YouTube videos. It must be high definition, because if it's low definition, you see it. It's not an Apple packaging. And the second one, even more important for me as a trainer, I train online. It has to have a 90-degree angle. A 90-degree angle. I'd show you how it looks when I don't use the 90-degree angle. Then it looks like this. It's the typical normal camera in your computer. I'm small, I'm limited. When I have a 90-degree angle, it looks like this. And I work a lot with flip chart, and I have presence, and I have body language, and all this only because of the camera. Get yourself the Logitech C930E. It's not product placement. The third element for presence, to make your packaging like an Apple packaging, is of course the sound. How many times have I seen those pilots sitting there with this huge headphones, and then the mic comes here and it sounds metallic, or it scratches on the beard, or it is away, and then they don't have any voice, or they speak like a little bit, or when you hear their breathing, it's a little bit like him. A little bit like him. Get yourself great sound. Now, I'm a great fan, and this is not product placement, but the Australian brand Rode, my God, they changed my life. You see it here on the outline. You see I have this USB mini on my table right now, right down here. This is for me, that was a life changer. There's a before and an after with great sound. Sound is so important. The fourth element for me, don't you love virtual background? Don't you love virtual background? Stefano McGee, the international director, just announced me. She introduced me. Beautiful introduction. Thank you so much, Stefano. Now he has his green screen. He has green screen. Do you know Mark Brown, the voice of the international conferences, the great speaker, my buddy, Mark Brown? He has this voice. He has built a green wall in his studio. If you have a green screen, you can use your virtual background. If you don't use them. It looks horrible. The hand is gone when you move it. The ears are gone. The head is gone. It is so pathetic. And you know what? What is the number one factor of success of a speaker from the point of view of your audience? Content, delivery, setup, clothes, whatever you have. Above all, authenticity. You are real. Authenticity. What can be more authentic, my friend, than your living room or your basement, even your bedroom? I hate virtual backgrounds with all my heart. But of course, the golden rule of rhetoric is there is no rule. You can do anything you want. That is my recommendation. But you need to make sure that your presence is like an Apple packaging. That for me is definitely not negotiable. And this makes all a great presence for me, what I've seen. And I've built all these little things over the time throughout these 25 YouTube live sessions. I started with a MacBook, with a camera, with a microphone off the computer, and I ended up here. Gradual improvement. Presence. Online charisma, letter number 2 in the formula is I. Okay, normally as speakers, we call it delivery. I have used the word impact for many years because I want to make an impact. I want to make my message, my content stick. And this is your delivery. This is impact. And this brings us to the triumvirate of impact for us speakers. And you know them well as Toastmasters. It's nothing new under the sun. The first one is, of course, your eye contact. In the outline, I say 90% connection. Why 90% connection? Eye contact. We have 4 main goals as speakers, which is to inform, to entertain, to persuade, to inspire. But I always say, my friend, on top of that is a huge block. And that says connection. The end game of public speaking is definitely connection. And how can I connect with people? With direct eye contact. And what is direct eye contact online? It's the black little hole. But Florian, how do it's so hard for me to train it. If you want to put your weird smileys and arrows that I think is, okay. Put them, but this is where the connection is. You need these, And then one guy told me this, Florian, no, in a room, when I sit in a room and I speak in a room, there's also, I don't always talk to everyone. I also look at one person. So the others I don't look at. It's the same as if I look down at the screen in a Zoom meeting. It's not the same. I realized there's a huge difference. And the difference is when I'm in a room and I look at one person, I look at Stefano McGee, for instance, in the first row, then Mary over there indirectly feels connected. It's a weird thing, I figured out. But when I'm online and I don't look at you, there is no connection. As simple as that. So look at that. And why do I say 90%? Because I want to see what's going on in those Teams, Microsoft Teams rooms and Zoom rooms, of course. I want to call the room. I want to see the cat jumping over the lab there up there. I want to do that. So what I do is I use my pauses to look around, more or less 10%, rule of thumb, 90%, I'm speaking with you and I connect. The second one, I realized, and even in Toastmasters, even for us, experienced speakers, sometimes they're sitting there like this, and they talk, 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 and they talk. Where's your body language? Where's your body language? I'm missing your screen gestures. I'm missing, it's in the outline. I'm missing your screen gestures. And why do I say miss? Because I use my gestures in 4 ways, and I call it miss. And you can do exactly the same online as offline. And more than that, I asked in the chat, by the way, your best new friend, the chat, I asked since May last year, give me a yes if attention keeping is more difficult online, give me a no if it's easier to keep the attention. Yes for it's more difficult, no for it's easier. Attention, 98% say it's more difficult online to keep the attention high. You need your body. And I will not give you that weird pie chart. 55% or 70, what was it? 70% of everything we communicate is nonverbal. Who calculates that? But I know one thing. First we moved on the trees, then we started to speak. So move your gestures. So what do? I use metaphorical gestures. Metaphorical gestures replace my words by gestures. I had to change my perception when I ended up in Berlin 12 years ago with €1.27 and I was bankrupt. I had to change my perspective. And don't you love the verticality online? The verticality, I love the verticality. Super easy, illustrative gestures, come on. Can't you have an espresso? Can't you drink a beer? Can't you play golf? Can't you dance tango? Can't you open an egg? Can't you eat? Can't you fix the lamp? Use your body language online the same way. Of course, it's easier when you have a C930E of Logitech. This is not product placement. And then the S, symbolic gestures. Come on, you know, you're Toastmasters. Love and friendship from Toronto to Turkey. This is Winston Churchill. This is super. This is okay. Don't do that in Turkey. Use symbolic gestures. Use the last S stands for signaling gestures. Signaling, like counting. I'm German, Inglourious Bastards, Tarantino, if you've seen it, he would be still alive. But it doesn't matter how you calculate in your culture. Count with fingers, signal, count with fingers, show numbers, always in the screen, of course, show numbers, say stop, no, this is a powerful gesture, this is a powerful gesture. Dude, they are not attentive. Wake them up with your gestures. Not all the time, but definitely a lot of times. Body language. And the third element, the third member of the triumvirate of impact, online like offline, is of course your most beautiful musical instrument you have as a speaker. It's your mouth. My parents made me play the clarinet. It's still today funny at parties. I can take out the clarinet and we play it. I mean, it's fun. But for me, not only the clarinet is a musical instrument, it's your mouth as well. And come on, you can use it much more. And the good thing here is, with a microphone, the vocal volume, for instance, is easier because it's easier. Everyone hears it the same way. If you have a good microphone, of course. But then more variety, even more. Pauses. And play more music, more vocal music. One tip always, if you look at the championship speakers during these days, they do it. Of course, experienced speakers always do it. Don't talk about stuff, relive stuff with dialogue. Mark Brown, the voice of the conferences, my friend, He told me once 2 years ago, he's my storytelling coach. And he said, Mark Brown, he said, Florian, I read your script. Any character you introduce into your story, bring them to life. Any character you introduce into your story, bring them to life. You see, that is powerful voice. And online, it's the same, but here for the attention, even a bit more. Impact, the second letter, is the typical delivery. It's your eye contact. I always look, at least 90%, that's my goal, throughout the presentation into the black hole to connect with you. And I definitely use my body with miss, and I definitely use more my voice like a musical instrument, musicality. That brings us to my third big lesson learned. That becomes now super different. While impact delivery is quite the same apart from the eye contact, the V is very different. And this is the visual aids. Now, I have worked with slides, PowerPoint slides, for 25 years. I love PowerPoint, I love slides. But I think now with online, at least in my case, I witness the fall of the slides. If you use Zoom, you are still okay-ish because you can have the slides and you see the people. You can move it, you can make the people bigger. Microsoft Teams, and so many companies use Microsoft Teams, of course. Horrible. I mean, it's the big slide and the heads are down there a little, but who's the protagonist? Microsoft gives all the protagonism, of course, to the slides. While I give all the, or I want all the protagonism for me, the speaker. You are the protagonist. I always say Aristotle didn't have slides either. So if you use slides, please, 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 always have in mind the documentary issue. Think about a documentary you've seen. Let's say lion babies in the Serengeti. What do you see? Lion babies? Yes, exactly. What else? Zebras. Cool. And what do you hear? Lion babies. Cool. And what else? It's a documentary. The speaker. Yeah. And where's the voice? In the off. Exactly. Did you know that our human brain is incapable of reading and listening at the same time? It's impossible. We cannot read and listen at the same time. The only exception I learned about is when your speed reader, now I can listen to you. Tell me about it, I read it already. It's impossible. So if you use slides, always make sure, follow the documentary style. Don't replace your speech by slides with content. Complement your slides, like in a documentary. Then you have more power in your point. But I don't use slides anymore. For me, it's the fall of the slides. Out of my 125 slide flow in my 2-day trainings in the Charisma Booster one, that went down to 35. So I'm not saying erase slides. I say use fewer slides and more other things. 2 ideas. First one, paper, paper, paper. I'm a great fan of the flip chart. I mean, I've had, by the time of the recording, 11,967 speech evaluations in 15 countries. Anytime somebody uses a flip chart, it was always positive feedback. Flip chart is a goodie, whatever you do. So I use flip chart. You can only do that when you have, of course, a 90-degree angle with a C930E of Logitech or any comparable product. Now, flip charts are great. They're intriguing. You can draw, you can do formulas, equations. I love flip chart. So use flip chart. But I cannot put a flip chart in my room. Well, if you cannot do it, I give you the second option. The new flip chart for me is paper. I have always copy paper here, printing paper, plain paper. Super, super simple. And I use it a lot in my trainings. For instance, do you know the bell curve? The bell curve, the normal distribution in statistics. Well, I explain it to my people using paper because 2.28% of any audience will think you're a loser. They are the haters. Don't think about haters. You will not get them anyway. But then you have 2.28% lovers. The lovers, they love you. And I learned that when you have 80% of the audience on your side, you're the president of the universe. I don't want to please everyone. I want to please the vast majority of people. So this, I don't explain anymore with boring slides. Paper is so cool. It's easy, it's haptic, it's creative, it's super, super cool for me. I use a lot of paper. And the second one, oh, that has changed. My friend, that has changed for me completely. It has changed. For 10 years, I would preach to everyone. In a room, on stage, not more than 2 objects, props, physical objects, props, not more than 2. Why did I say that? 2 reasons. First reason, the effect goes a bit down. You know, people get used to stuff and it goes down, even if it's a new visual aids, and then you appear like a clown a little bit, taking out stuff, or a magician out of your, it's not really spot on cool. And the second one is, there is a neuroscientist, and his name is Professor Wolfram Schultz from Cambridge University, the German English professor. He's a neuroscientist, and he investigated on the impact of surprises on our emotions. Guess, give a percentage. Think about a percentage in your head. What's the percentage? How much does it rise? How much does it go up when we are surprised? When we are surprised, negative or positive? You know how much it is? It's up to 400%, up to 400%. That's amazing. And now think about Quentin Tarantino movies. The master of non-linear storytelling. Surprise, 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 Pulp Fiction. Surprise, surprise, Pulp Fiction. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Emotional. And I want to make sure with my objects in a speech that I surprise my audience. So the second reason is the handling is more difficult. The handling is more difficult. And this is why I always said 2, maximum 3, but not 2 maybe. And then came the 15th of March, 2020. Tu vas a casa. And I started with my YouTube live sessions. Now my Rose Chong from Kota Kinabalu in Malaysia, she always says, I'm a real headhunter. She's my Toastmaster darling. We got together 13 years ago. She was my president. She's also a Toastmaster. And every day throughout the 25 days, the table got bigger. All these objects, everywhere objects, every day more. And she said every day in the other room, in the living room, Florian, get rid of all the stuff. And I said, I can't. Tomorrow's the next session. I learned that online is different with objects. This here is Netflix. It's a Netflix show. It's a screen. The perception is different. And I use so many objects like this. You know, a speech, this one shows everything that I want to have in a speech. Surprise, suspense, curiosity, imagination. I use a lot of objects. You know, this S is not your S. This S is your S. Every movement we do on the screen has to be the other way around. Like Washington, D.C., Singapore. It's the other way around. And examples, my friend, are like onions. Onions. There's one layer and another layer and another layer. Do you like to cook? I love cooking. Another layer and another layer. How many layers are there? It's like an example. Go deeper, be more specific, more specific. Which person? What did he say? Where is he from? What is it? The better the example. Or, when I was in a training and I figured out a new pattern, which is the 8-ball. Sweaty in here. It's the 8-ball. It's an object that you place into your speech that has a higher symbolic value. That means perseverance, an object in your life. And these are unforgettable. All this I explain to people and they don't forget it. And they all come by surprise. The handling is easy. Objects here is easy. You should see my table. Hey, if I show you my table, don't tell others. Huh? But of course, it looks, now I'm in another room. Rose doesn't say anything anymore. But it's amazing. I use objects all the time. And they beat any slide 1,000 times. 1,000 times they beat a slide. So use more objects. And this is it. Use more paper, flip chart, copy paper, use more objects, fewer slides. You don't have to erase them. But why do we always have to show everything with PowerPoint? You can stop it and continue somewhere else. This is your visual aids in the online world to have more online charisma. And we've reached the fourth and final one, the question mark, the extra tip. Now this is something, it happened throughout the year with all the speeches and ideas. This here is much more than a two-dimensional screen. So I use what I call, that's the tip, a holographic space. This is for me a holographic space. And the holographic space means I can use it in my storytelling. Look behind you. There they were, all my team members of the football team in Italy, in Turin, 14 years old. I still smell the dust of the patio. It was amazing. Super funny, super funny. We are playing there, football, parents in the trattoria, drinking cheap red wine, getting a little bit tipsy. We are playing football there. Amazing. 1 hour later, I'm there at the wall, alone. And it was a hot day, and I took away my sweat. Don't disrespect the parents of your team captain. One of my biggest lessons learned. Friendship needs empathy. You see the people behind you. I did it, and once people really turned around, that was funny. There's nothing. So this is it, a holographic space, man. You can do so many things. You have to try out new things. You have to be creative and think different and do it differently. The space is amazing. Like on stage, for instance, we can move horizontally. We move horizontally as speakers. Here I use my hands when I was 8 years old. But today, the future, you see now is a timeline here with my hands. This is all possible online. And this is my extra tip, holographic space. And this brings us to the formula. For me, more online charisma is the sum of 4 elements. Make sure that your presence is in Apple packaging with the right light, from the right situation, with right sound, with the right camera. And you know which camera I love so much. And then the eye, the impact, delivery, you know it, but always into the camera, apart from making pauses. This is what I do. Body and voice, you know about that. And then the visual aids, use more object, use more paper, that's for sure. And use more space. And when you do all that, when you bring it all together, then I realized you will set their screens on fire. On fire. Because you boost your online charisma. Will this thing stay? Will it go after the pandemic? Will the pandemic go? Will it stay? Who knows? I know that thanks to that policeman, tu vas a casa, today I'm a hybrid. And I think for all of us, I'm convinced for all of us Toastmasters, in our Toastmasters family, It's time to realize that and become a 100% hybrid speaker, trainer, teacher, whatever you are. Leader. If I had to choose one thing, one action for you to take right now, reduce your slides and use other stuff. That will set you apart from all the rest. And having said that, it's been a great pleasure being with you here. And now I can only give back to the amazing Stefano McGee. Thank you for your participation. Enjoy the conference, and back to you, International Director Stefano McGee.